Welcome to part 8 of our ASP.NET Core with the React.js series. In this session, we will focus on handling forms and managing state in React and how to send form data to the ASP.NET Core backend. Forms are a key part of most applications. They allow us to collect input from users such as login details, registration information, or feedback. After collecting the data, we need to validate it, process it, and send it to our ASP.NET Core backend for storage or further logic. In React, form inputs are usually controlled components. This means their values are managed by React state. For example, we can use the useState hook to manage the value of a text box. When the user types something, the onChange event updates the state and the input fields always reflect the state value. When the user submits the form, we usually prevent the default page reload using event.preventDefault. Then we handle the data inside our submit function. For example, we can log the entered name or trigger further actions such as API calls. To send the form data to the backend, we use fetch or axioms. In this example, we send a post request to our ASP.NET Core API endpoint. The form data stored in state is sent as JSON in the request body. The backend can then process this data and return a response. On the backend, we create a controller with a post action. The createUser method receives the user data from the request body. We can then save it to a database or perform other business logic. Finally, we return a response, for example, a success message. Validation is critical. On the front end, we can check for required fields or specific formats before sending the data. But it is equally important to validate again on the backend since users may bypass front-end validation. In this example, we display an error if the name field is left empty. Here is the full demo flow. A user enters their name in a form. When they click submit, React handles the input using state. The form data is then sent to the ASP.NET Core backend through an API call. The backend saves the data and returns a response. Finally, the front end shows a success message to the user. Let us recap what we covered in this video. We learned how to create controlled components using useState, how to handle form submission in React, how to send a post request to the ASP.NET Core backend, and how to apply basic validation on both the front end and backend. In the next video, we will connect our application to a database using Entity Framework Core.